Hello everyone, my name is Hannah Hess, and today I'm doing my cumulative reflection on our readings for this portion of the course, and it's for CUAI 5017. So this is going to be really quick, so let's go ahead and get started. These are just some guidelines for my reference and also some due dates for my reference. But let's go ahead and get started in the first reading reflection, and this is for weeks 2 through 4. So in week 2, we looked at programs and policies for educating emergent bilinguals. And you can see here there's several different programs, and I was already pretty familiar with most all of these. So we have submersion, we have English as a second or new language, pull-out program, but then there's also a push-in program. There's structured English immersion, and then high-intensity English language training. There is also transitional bilingual education, developmental bilingual education, two-way bilingual education, and dynamic bi/plurilingual education. So there's quite a few different programs, but one quote that I really want to pull out from the article says that although we present different program categories, in practice, the most innovative and committed educators start with designing a program for their actual community of students. In reality, we have found many times that educators blend features to fit their students' needs. So, like any good teacher, you don't use one program solely. You use a little bit of everything to fit the needs of your students, which should be the case for ESL teachers, but also general ed teachers as well. And it's really just about fitting the needs of your student and what works best for them. So the next thing we looked at was ESL Case Law, and we see 6 really important cases here, court cases here. And honestly, the one that stood out to me the most was Law versus Nichols. And that one really stood out to me the most because it says Chinese American students who were not receiving EL services brought a case to the Supreme Court. San Francisco Unified School District said equal was fair. The court disagreed. So really, this to me was a picture of equity winning over equality, because equity and equality are not the same thing. And I think this court case really proved that and made a great point, but also made a great difference in a lot of English language learners' lives. And the other thing I want to point out on this chart says down here at the bottom, English learners have unique instructional needs that cannot be ignored. And all 6 of these court cases have definitely proven that. Now let's take a look at the Common Core state standards. So one thing that I thought was really interesting about those is only 2.5 pages are devoted to English language learners. I personally don't think that's nearly enough. I would be interested to see what other people have to say about that, but I really don't think that that's enough for English language learners. And the other problem with the standards is the standards reinforce the idea that English is a system of structures that are to be taught in progressive and linear order. Emergent bilinguals need experience using English in legitimate academic tasks. They do not benefit from simply analyzing the structure of the English language. Linguistic features are acquired in the authentic use, not by focusing on them in isolation. So I was actually talking to my mentor teacher today about the WIDA testing, and I just kind of said that I don't really feel like there's a way that you can explicitly teach the WIDA testing. I think that, kind of like this quote says, students learn skills like speaking, listening, reading, writing. They learn all of those in teaching English authentically, using English in legitimate academic tasks. That's how they learn all of these skills, not from explicit instruction on speaking, on listening. There are ways that you can incorporate academic tasks, but also enhance their abilities to do those things. So definitely something to think about whenever you're teaching English language learners. And now for a critical review of the present. You can see how some of these have changed. So the title used to be of Elementary and Secondary Education Act, the Bilingual Education Act, and now they've changed it to No Child Left Behind, Public Law, Language Instruction for Limited English Proficient and Immigrant Students. Okay, it used to be Office of Bilingual Education and Minority Languages Affairs. Now it's Office of English Language Acquisition, Language Enhancement, and Academic Achievement for Limited English Proficient Students. National Clearinghouse for Bilingual Education is now National Clearinghouse for English Language Acquisition and Language Instruction Educational Programs. So, aside from the names getting more lengthy, you can also see the reoccurring pattern of them removing the word bilingual. So, based on this, I came up with some questions that I would love to hear your opinions and thoughts on. So, what do you think has caused this shift? Why are we taking out the word bilingual from all of these different official things? I can't remember what the word is, but official, things, not necessarily documents, but like titles. Why are we taking out the word bilingual? Why would people not want to support and promote bilingualism? What's up with that? How can we make a difference in changing the shift to view bilingual students from an asset-based lens? I personally feel like that people obviously don't see the value in being bilingual and multilingual, which is why they're taking it out of these, official titles and changing it to English language acquisition. I don't know. I just feel like people aren't seeing the value in buying multilingualism. So, as teachers, as educators, and as ESL teachers, what can we do to make that shift? What can we do to change that and make a difference and help people start viewing things from an asset-based lens? Just a thought. Then, if you look at the Coloring Colorado EL Policy and Research, if you look at that link, from there, if you go to Recommendations, EL Policy, and then from there, go to Language Policy Recommendations, which is an article to read. This is an excerpt from that article, and I just want to highlight a few things from this excerpt because it is recommendations for schools and teachers, and I just found them really helpful, and I also really strongly agreed with all of these. So first, develop school-wide language policies. That should definitely be taking place in every school to create a forum of unity and also create a place of comfort for English language learners. Also, number 2, support native language instruction. Doing so will aid rather than hinder students' development of English literacy. I don't know why so many people, it seems, have the misconception that supporting the native language instruction will slow down their English proficiency, but it definitely will not, and it will make things easier for them to learn more skills in their first language so they can transfer those skills into their second language. That's all I'm going to say on that, so don't get on the soapbox. Number 3, tests should not drive instruction for ELLs. Tests should not drive instruction for any classroom teacher, but especially ELLs. Teachers must have the space for instruction that goes beyond test preparation. So important. And finally, the demands of the test should also be balanced with other demands, such as the knowledge required of students' futures in the United States. I know that it can get overwhelming, especially with like a mountainous pile of required state standards to teach, but it's also important to teach students future life skills that they actually need to survive in life. It's like the argument of, why don't they teach you how to do your taxes whenever you're in high school? I don't know. You know what I mean? We just need to keep in mind as teachers that it's also important to teach students, life skills that are important for them, especially if they're new to the United States as an English language learner. That's really important. Then we looked at supporting ELLs for basic principles, and I just want to highlight these really quick. Number 1, ELLs move through different stages as they acquire English proficiency. Number 2, there's a difference between conversational and academic language. So just because a student is fluent in conversational language does not mean that they should be fluent in academic language. Academic language is a lot harder, and it's harder for students to learn. It takes a lot more time. Whereas conversational language is much more casual. They speak it more often with their friends or outside of school and things like that. Number 3, ELLs need instruction that will allow them to meet content standards. Yes. Number 4, ELLs bring their own background knowledge to school, and we should remember that and also utilize that for sure. Then these few different videos were on week 3, and I just wanted to put all 3 of them on here because these were all 3 very informational. I enjoyed watching all 3 of these. So the first one is the direct method, the second one is total physical response, and the third one is audio linguism. So the direct method, if we wish to learn a language, then we should try to recreate the conditions that we learn our native language in, which is a very interesting thought concept to think about. Number 2, total physical response, by bringing language and learning and movement. By bringing language learning and movement together, it was shown that it would actually enhance the learning process. I have found this to be true several times. I realized after watching this video that I have definitely used total physical response in my teaching several times and not even known that's what it was called. But I definitely support this and definitely agree that it makes a difference in language learning for ELLs, but also for Gen Ed students as well. And then number 3 is audio linguism. So what we do is a series of drills, and these intensive verbal drills help us to get the use of the particular language. It was interesting to learn about this. Not sure if I 100% agree with it, but it was interesting to learn about. Then in week 4, we looked at Getting to Know Our Names Week, this article, and I was kind of randomly going through the different articles to read, and I looked at this one first, and this one is such a great article. I mean, as soon as I read this, I immediately downloaded it and saved it and then printed it off and put it in my teaching portfolio because this is just awesome. Like, this article in 4 pages has so much to offer and just so many resources, and I just think this is so cool and I love this. And as soon as I read this, I was like, oh my goodness, this looks just like the article La Historia de mi Nombre, which I love and has become one of my favorite articles to read. So without even realizing that we were assigned La Historia de mi Nombre, in addition this week, I had already plugged these on the same slide together to be like, hey, if you haven't read this article, you should read it. But Dr. Ward already assigned it for this week, so thank goodness, because I was going to bring it up anyways. But these articles go very hand in hand on just the idea of getting students to explore their name as you're getting to know them the first week of school or at the beginning of school. And they're just really, I love both of these so much. And for some reason, the first time I read this article was probably over a year ago, and it has really just stuck with me ever since then. I just love it. So I think it would be a great activity to do during the first week of school. Like, I just love this article. And it's kind of lengthy, but I really like when you read about it, you realize that you can do this activity over several weeks and get the family involved and all kinds of great stuff. Or you could definitely shorten this article to make it, just like a little mini lesson or something like that. You could definitely do a lot of stuff with the lesson that this article teaches. So, love both of these articles. And then finally, 7 tips for teachers of newcomer emergent bilingual students. So I really enjoyed this article. I just want to read over those 7 tips really quick that I pulled from the article. So number 1, strive to understand what students are perceiving. Number 2, build bridges with students' home languages. Number 3, become aware of funds of knowledge of students' families. Number 4, become aware of areas or situations that may be challenging for newcomers. Number 5, become aware of Become aware of ways English is like and different from students' first language. Number 6, consider preparing a newcomer kit for classroom teachers. And number 7, nurture a yes face, which includes facial expression, body language, tone of voice, and gestures. And I really like how the article said, but also taking care of yourself. That's what helps nurture a yes face. You don't have to fake it. You should take care of yourself so you can have a genuine yes face for these students to welcome them, because you should love the place that you're at. And if you're having a hard time, don't forget to take care of yourself, because I definitely know that so often teachers do forget to take care of themselves, which I know can stem from an act of selflessness, but it is also important to take care of yourself too. So that's all I have for this. Thank you so much for watching, and if you would like to answer some of my questions, I would love to hear your comments and opinions and feedback. Thanks so much. Bye.